gift they give you compared to if you did not have that. In other countries, they use that also to estimate risk at the individual level. If you have BRCA1, you are at higher risk of getting, if you're a man, prostate cancer, and if you're a woman, breast cancer. So it's happening. But in terms of the challenges, attitude to technology, always a problem. I mean, there was a time, for instance, we were told that the Mercury BP machine was the accurate one. So at that time, the digital ones had not even come. So the next generation were the aneroids, the ones that are like a clock when you're checking blood pressure. So to embrace and accept technology can be a problem. Currently, I guess one shouldn't be seeing the mercury thermometers anymore. Even the aneroids ones should also be disappearing in preference for the digital machine. So acceptance of technology is a problem. The other thing is that if then we are using digital equipment like blood pressure machines that are digital, then you have to have a source of power like electricity, batteries and so on. And the simple things, you find that sometimes that isn't always there. In terms of data security, that also is an issue. Yes, I got the results from a patient from a laboratory this morning, but we are always mindful that this can get into the wrong hands, and that will be a challenge. The other thing would be competence. The Ministry of Health has got a health management information system. Every month, each of the health centers in this country, hundreds of health centers are inputting data into the health management information system. I would say nobody uses that. So a lot of data being collected, but also very little happening. As my colleague was talking about aerial pictures and so on, we also produce this in health because the way that perhaps streams and rivers, if they are full, if they are empty, ground cover, the trees, the grasses, and that sort of thing are related to illnesses and health in many, many ways. That data is there, but we do not use it that much. But progress has happened. Now we also, I mean, I know that perhaps I shouldn't just monopolize this, but we are also producing medical specialists being trained by our own people, but also others using various sorts of digital platforms. So we are able to build up our manpower or human resources by harnessing technology. So that's something that we are able to do in this country.
No, thank you very much. And again, I'm seeing the issues related to data cutting across. That is an area that we need to focus on, but I'm glad you've also brought in the issue of security, because now that the data is sitting somewhere online, it's easier to get access to. I'm speaking from a technology person perspective. If you have data in your cabinet, in your office, chances that somebody can get to that data is very, very minimal. You know, others have locks, and the doors, the office door will be locked, the building gates and alarms. But if it's sitting on your computer, somebody sitting somewhere in Russia will still get access. You know, will still get access. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we've heard from our panelists, but I'm wondering, as an audience, what comments or questions do you have to any of the panelists? And I'll take a few. Perhaps maybe let's start with 3 or 4 questions, and the panelists will address those, and then we'll go into closing final statements. MC, if you could help me with engaging the audience.
Thank you so much, moderator. And just to add that, just as we did before we went out for lunch, we're also going to get a little bit disruptive. So we're bringing the 3 that would have led the breakaway sessions to further engage with the panel and further engage with the audience here, with you still moderating in between. So you have Jed Mlewezi, Captain Dr. Emma Slema, and Dr. Engineer Edwin Kundi, who are going to join you in that disruptive session, engaging in between.
Maybe before these three come up, could we get just one final? If in that case, let's moderate together. But let me just ask this panel to give us one last statement in regards to the conversation. You know, what would be from your contribution perspective, what would you like the audience to know in regards to, you know, health, worth, and innovation and technology? How can we make a change? I think the conversation should be about making a change. So how would we be able to do that? Mr. Gondo, let me start with you, and then we'll move from there.
Thank you, Clarence. So my take home, or my message to the audience, is that the health wealth nexus is bringing us an opportunity for us to innovate and also for us to focus on the new ways of delivering solutions against the grand challenges that we have. So in health, you may take note that we have a lot of grand challenges, I think from epidemiology, but also lack of devices, for example. I think there are issues of genetics here, diseases that are actually transmitted from generation to generation. But basically, the innovation financing that the government has actually provided through the S&T fund is giving us an opportunity to be able to support the brilliant minds that people have. So that should be an opportunity to us. The commission is open so that it can actually, we'll be advertising some of the calls that we are co-creating with some of the funders, just to give opportunities to Malawians to provide the solutions home. So what we want is to create devices that are made in Malawi to solve our local problems. So we want local industrialization. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Kalombo-Mitian, let me get to your final closing remark.
All right. I think as we are talking about innovation and technology for inclusive growth, it is important to note that we should not leave the vulnerable population behind. And so it is important as policy makers, decision makers in our various environments to make sure that the innovation and technology that we are developing is inclusive of the vulnerable population. I'm happy that we have talked about digital literacy. That's also a step further to ensuring that our vulnerable population are part of the technologies that we are developing, and it's actually inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kwapata?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the message which I want to drive to this audience is that you know, a healthy nation is very key to a productive nation, and diagnosis is one of the most important things that we need to promote for a healthy nation. And one of the challenges I've said is misdiagnosis, yes, but the other challenge is that people do not go to the hospital, you know, for, you know, for medical checkup. In particular, my male counterparts. I think you have a very big challenge going there. So I think moving forward, what happens is that because of this, you know, a specific disease may be creeping behind unknowingly, and then it attacks you severely to a point where you have to be hospitalized. And that becomes an economic burden, both for yourself but also for the state. So moving forward, I think we need to ensure that we go to the hospital for medical checkup. Now, with the, with genetics, we can do these things more precisely by looking at the specific genes that confer predisposition to specific diseases. And you can be advised there to be told that maybe you change your diet in order for you to be able to live more healthy. And even when you are choosing your spouses in these days, make sure you go to the hospital, and if that hospital has got capacity to do a full genomic analysis to look at what type of offsprings are you likely to bear. Yeah, I'm talking about this because I know my friend Wisdom there, he likes drinking a lot. So we have discovered a certain gene called alcohol dehydrogenase. So when you have a mutation in this gene, you're most likely to be an alcoholic. So those people who are alcoholics, sometimes it's not their fault. But we have also a remedy for that. So what I'm just trying to say is that sometimes don't just blame people for specific conditions, but let us understand them from their medical point of view and see whether we can get a diagnosis for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, food for thought. I'm thinking about that picture. You found somebody, you want to get serious, but you tell them, look, let's go get a genetic test first to see what kind of offspring we're going to have. I don't know how that conversation would end. But yes, Prof. Muller, let me close with you before we go back to the audience.
So for me, is really, this is an exciting time for us in Malawi. And I think the more we work together, I mean in the, I would say in quotes, the technology side and the health side, and conversing and coming up with solutions. I believe that many of the challenges in the health sector are amenable to some technological solution. Starting from yesterday, I was thinking, how come we're still using the stethoscope? Because the stethoscope basically is for listening, and it's not a very good device for listening to sounds. And yet that's the purpose it was created. They could be solutions for listening rather than putting up a piece of cord, a string, and with earpieces and a bell the other side to be listening. There has to be an innovation that will take away even the stethoscope from our hospitals, because its purpose, as I repeat, is just to listen to your chest, to listen to movements and so on. There is nothing more than listening. And there are devices that should listen better than a stethoscope. But the reason is people who make equipment didn't probably learn from the doctors that the doctors were using it for listening. And the doctors also didn't know that there could be a tool that could listen better than them. So, I mean, if we work together, it's more likely to come up with solutions that will give better outcomes.
No, thank you very much, Prof. Yeah, don't forget that the stethoscope is also a brand identity for MDs. So if we take that away, if we take away the stethoscope from medical doctors, I'm sure we should have to identify another piece of equipment, because medical doctors deal with what you're saying is they deal with more complex equipment than a stethoscope. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, let me now call to the front to help us with the facilitation and audience engagement, Dr. Bridget Solomba Malewezi, who is the country director of Mothers to Mothers. We are also being joined by Captain Dr. Emma Silema, Medical Corps, Malawi Defense Force, and Dr. Engineer Edwin Kundi, who is the lecturer of Biomedical Engineering at the Malawi University of Science and Technology. Thank you very much. Yeah, so the colleagues will help us engage both the panel and the audience. Let's discuss this conversation. So please raise up your hand, and a microphone will come to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Listening to...
Sorry, just introduce yourself first.
Oh, great. My name is Webster Mbekeani, and I'm the CEO for Nitel. Used to be called Marswitch a long time ago. Listening to Professor... No, not Mola, the other one. Kwapata, yes.
So, yes, Dr.
Yes, Dr. Kwapata, yes. And he's talking about going to the hospital to get checked. And I'm like, what does that mean, going to the hospital? Okay, in the banking sector, we have tried to get people out of the banking hall. Why do you come to the bank? Why should you come to the bank and do what? Don't fill up the banking halls. You can do everything on your phone, on your computer, call somebody, send an email, whatever. Okay? You don't need to meet anybody. You can do it. You can do it yourself. Can that be done in the health service? Does somebody have to go to a building to get stuff done? You know, why? Why does was it Dr. Matisse or somebody else who talked about a deficit of health workers of around 4.2 million? I think we'll never catch up with that. All right. So there has to be another way. A doctor can only see one person at a time. A computer can interact with so many different people at one single time as well, you know. So simple things like checkup, simple things like, I don't know, diagnosis, whatever. They listen to things and then make decisions after they've listened using the stethoscope. And as he rightly put it, something can also listen and input into some other device and make similar decisions. You know, so that word going to the hospital really gives me problems. Can we not go to the hospital and therefore achieve even better, healthier people? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, that is so true. Sometimes it is really hard to get yourself to the hospital. Does anyone have any comments on what maybe can be done?
Thank you so much. I think I was I should say excited when I heard the comment from Professor to say, I think the identity that we know when doctors were, we say, now this is a doctor. To say it's obsolete, I could call it. I think as we have been listening from morning presentations up to now, we are being surprised to say that ICT or artificial intelligence is puzzling us with challenges and also giving us opportunities for growth. We have also been listening and agree that I think the first step that if you look at the Malawi 2063, we are talking that the idea is youth-centric, and there was a question to say, do you have somebody under 20? So looking at all these positive sides, I'm commenting to say, I think the medical practitioners, if they see that the stethoscope, you call it, is obsolete, I think it's a chance now that even our universities with these youngsters can also develop something new. Just like we some teams outside there take our players, perfect them from Africa, and then when they play football outside there, they become superstars. We can also look at the technologies that look obsolete, but we can also build on that, and I think come with a better view or better version, and then Malawi can also look to be different. I think that's the comment I'm going to bring out. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. I don't know if, Captain, your question was answered. I take it you're trying to connect it?
Yeah, I was.
Okay. Maybe pick it up from the top and then, because I thought that's a good chain that Webster started. I think if you could take it up again so that the audience could pick it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think there are some simple things that can be done at home. But I'm a doctor, I'm a medical doctor, so I actually work in a hospital. But I also think that there are things that actually need to be done in a hospital. Like a doctor really has to see the patient. I don't know what other countries do, but I still think people have to still go to the hospital. So yes, there are some simple things that have to be done. I think I may be biased because, yes, I work in a hospital. But I don't know what other countries do. But I do think there are some simple things that can be done at home with technology. But I still think people will still have to go to the hospital.
All right, maybe can I join in the conversation?
So just
Yeah.
oh, sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I think there was a question relating to the banking system, that people go to a bank, they no longer go into the banking halls, they can use ATM. I think there are different schools of thoughts. However, you can agree with me that issues of health and well-being are kind of complex. There were times where you thought you were maybe suffering from malaria, but when you went to the hospital, the doctor diagnosed you with a totally different health condition. So while it is really true that there are some technology that they can assist us to diagnose or handle certain processes, however, we still need to put those kind of boundaries. I've experienced, I think, different healthcare systems. In UK, there is actually a 24/7 system where actually you call a doctor, or you call a system, and actually to ask you a series of questions. If you are really sick, it can be a very boring system because you cannot even complete the questionnaire because the questionnaire is just so long, right? And you would actually prefer our local system. So while indeed there are those kind of different systems, but we need actually also to balance. And I think the system that we have is kind of good. However, we don't have integrated systems. We have manual patient registers that contain lots of important information, but a doctor from a certain hospital cannot access that information because maybe the patient register is in a certain hospital.
Oh,
But I think if you can kind of integrate, but still create a system where the patient still meets the doctor, and the system just helps the doctor make a quicker decision.
But from an idea perspective, you support.
Yeah.
Dr. Malewis, I thought you had something to say.
Sure. It was quite interesting that the resistance is coming from the man, because what we're saying is the challenge we're having in health is health-seeking behaviors. Health-seeking can be via technology, via exactly going to the hospital. That's the challenge we find with men, is that we know that often, I think health is seen as a female thing, and women go to the hospital to have children, to have babies, to take the children to the hospital. So the ideal is how to ensure that we can utilize the technology to also engage the youth and also men in health-seeking behaviors. It's interesting to hear this conversation because I remember that when there was COVID pandemic, we said if you're not very sick, if your condition is mild, as a medical fraternity, we said you stay at home, you don't need to come to the hospital. But a lot of Malawians were very resistant. We had a lot of pushback from the Malawian community that doctors mukufuna mutisiye, mukutawa matenda wa chani. And I think the reality is we are also trying to decongest our hospitals, and there are ways in which we're trying to do that, not only in using technology, but also trying to get the technology to the community. So that's one of the other aspects. I think Professor Mula would have highlighted, as he's the head of community health, it's one of the things that we're trying to do is bring health to the communities. Where if you're in your village, whether you're in a house, there's ways in which we can try and bring the test to you and take the results from the hospital, etc. That's one of the highlights as well, the use of technology in the health sector. Thanks.
Thanks. I see
All
Mr. Karim there.
All right, thank you. Everyone's looking forward to having technology integrated into health. I think my question is going to be very thorny. Mine is on, as we're embracing these technologies, Professor Adamson, you mentioned how we had mercury-driven devices and so on, and now we're looking at digital versions. My question now is, as these devices are running on software, and we know that medical device, the risk of a software glitch in a medical device, the risk is much higher than anything else. Do we have, in this country, some heavy hand on regulation on what kind of devices are coming in and ensuring that they're of the highest quality, of the highest standard? That is my question. Thank you.
Okay, Prof, you want to take that straight away? And perhaps you could connect to Dr. Malawi's comment as well before you continue to answer that one.
Yeah, so I've also listened to my colleagues. Maybe in our mental minds we are seeing things, different things currently. I mean, the self-diagnosis already exists, doesn't it? In terms of HIV, you can test yourself at home in this country. Using your saliva, you put in a swab in the mouth and you get a, after, of course, you need to read the instructions. There are, of course, questions. If I did that in my home and I find out that I'm living with HIV, what happens? Those need to be addressed. But there are people who are having these tests in this country. My colleague who has a pharmacy in Blantyre says that one of his best products, it's the pregnancy self-test. And he says that often on Monday, and when colleges are in session, so since the pharmacy is between Polytechnic and College of Medicine, we can infer. So they are making the diagnosis, people do that and hopefully make the right decision once they know that they may be expecting. So there are things, but I can't minimize the safeguards that my colleagues raised. It's not like it should be done irresponsibly, but it can be done. My sense is that one of the things to move things forward is to challenge the status quo. Now, I know time is limited, but I went to a 6-year medical school, and while I was in 3rd year, they brought in a new class and they say, we'll teach them for 4 years. So I was like, we spent 6 years, and then you're bringing in another group and saying that it will be 4 years. Meaning that things can change. The issue about the laser gun for temperatures during COVID, and in the airports, you don't have to have the thermometer in your armpits, right? As you just come in, it is already registering that. So technology can be used for that. What about the security? I think that is very important. Very important. Is there somebody who looks at that? Depends on the sort of equipment or technology we are looking at. The data platform, was it for malaria or HMS, crashed at some point. Nobody knows what happened. Then they had to recreate that sort of the data bank, meaning that they probably also didn't have backups that people in the ICT sector would know that perhaps you need to keep that and so on and so forth. So that is something that not all people know. Let me finish by maybe giving an example of what we are not talking about. What we are not talking about, not that it is the most important thing, but one time we were having conversation for colleagues that that graduated within University of Malawi. We were saying, what if this building where they keep their records, because it was hard copies, burnt down? It means that the 20,000, 30,000 graduates, all their records can disappear. So data security and ensuring that there are redundancies, storage somewhere would be very important. Or any person who accesses HIV treatment in this country, their data are digitalized, are online. There is an HIV management system that is digital. What are the security safeguards there? Luckily, as far as we can tell, it hasn't been breached to the point that unauthorized disclosure has happened. But we shouldn't be very comfortable with that. It may happen. And therefore, the issues about security are real because people can access that, and then all our HIV data can become public one day.
Thank you. Dr. Sulema, can I throw it back to you if you have a question? And then audience engagement? No? Okay. All right, then just...
Thank you so much. Mine is not necessarily a question, but I wanted just to comment on what Webster had talked about earlier. I think it's good to hear we've discussed quite a bit about his issues where he was trying to liken the bank and the hospitals in terms of trying to keep people away but still being able to deliver the service. And I thought we can also talk about the same and try to find ways of how we can mitigate that by not necessarily looking at technology, but just new ways of working. And I'm talking about this maybe controversially or so from a medical insurance point of view. I think over the years, most of our medical insurance have been, if I can use this term loosely, reactive. So wait for people to get sick, then you go to the hospital, then the medical insurance acts on you to be able to provide you the service. But I think we have seen emerging ways of how medical insurance have now started getting to us to make sure our well-being is better, because then when our well-being is better, then few of us go to the hospital and we still get the same medical insurance. I think Mazim these days have a gym. Those that have had an opportunity to access international medical schemes, those are some of the initiatives that in the health sector to ensure there's health and wealth are trying to do to keep people away from the hospital. It is to try and get to people and share with them what can they do to have a health living, which then reduces the amount of times they need to go into hospitals by doing various campaigns and various activities. And I think that is an innovation that we can also continue to talk about without having to do technology, but to try and keep people away. Because let's face facts, we will never be able to manage to keep people in the hospital because we just don't have enough of them. And like the conversation that came earlier on already mentioned that we don't have enough. And I think if our medical insurances, if there are any out here listening, trying to also come in and see, okay, what can we do in terms of putting in innovations that help to keep people away from the hospital by getting to them before they even get sick. These men that don't like to go to the hospital, what should they do? What wellness activities can the medical insurances incentivize these people to be able to do so that there is less of people getting into the hospitals? And I thought I should just share that. I think it's something that we can also consider and continue to look into. And I think medical insurances are already doing. Maybe if they can do more, it can help the likes of Molas and the like see people that are critically needed to be in hospitals and not just everyone else. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Dr. Dr.
Yeah.
You want to react to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the medical insurance issue. I think it's very important and something that we haven't really talked about. I want to give some experiences that I have with other countries. Now, there are two issues with medical insurance. The first one, I don't know what's standard practice here in Malawi, is pre-existing conditions. So, in the developed countries, what they do is that medical insurances, before you apply for an insurance, in some countries, they would ask for data, whether it's genetic data in particular in this case. So, you know, when you present a genetic profile of an individual, it can also, you know, reveal the pre-existing diseases that individual has. And to some extent, so some medical insurances are now taking advantage of that and rejecting certain patients to say that, because you have this, it's in your, even though that patient is not suffering or that individual is not suffering from that disease, but the genetic profile has revealed that he or she is predisposed to that particular disease, you find that, you know, medical insurance companies are rejecting individuals on that basis. So I think it's a debate that we need to really have to say, should medical insurance companies in Malawi also have access to that, because if they do, then they could also go through that route, rejecting other people because of potential pre-existence of specific diseases.
No, thank you.
All right, my name is Francis Chimbalanga. I just wanted to comment on the question you asked one of the panelists about accepting technology in rural areas. So sometimes accepting technology is not only a problem in rural areas, even us in town, or like we face problems accepting technology. So for example, we were talking about, he talked about people neglecting all the BP machines, okay? So if you can look today in our centers of higher education, they ask the students to buy the same old machines which people are rejecting in the villages. So they tell the students to buy the analog BB machines. Later on, we have the digital machines today, okay? So it's not only in the medical field, even like the engineering department, they tell students to buy maybe drawing boards which are like old age, because today we use computers. So I think it's something which change must be also embraced in centers of higher education. Thank you.
Anyone want to react to that? Yes, Dr.
All right. So I think there are a number of points that I wanted to raise, but before actually I forget, I want to add to what Professor Muller said. I think he was reacting to the question about regulations, about software, medical software. I'm privileged that I'm in the subcommittee. Okay. I'm in the technical subcommittee of Pharmacy and Medicines Regulatory Authority. And I think issues to do with hardware and software of medical devices will be actually regulated by PMRA. And currently we are developing those regulations. And of course, we are actually seeking also people that we can work with and collaborate and develop better regulation for medical hardware and software. But at the moment, we don't have our own Malawi headlines because the ones that we're developing are not yet gazetted. So the question that you raised is very important, because some softwares, if they actually freeze while a doctor is treating a patient, that can have serious repercussions on the health care of the patient. So we are trying to develop that so that we can have quality assurance when it comes to medical devices that we have in the country. I think Francis talked about acceptability of technology. I think you would agree with me that when COVID vaccines were developed, there were several propagandas that were circulating about each COVID-19 vaccine. And it's an issue that we as experts, we need actually to try to find a solution to say that how can actually we get first to the people before a propaganda actually gets the people. Because if people listen to the propaganda first, no matter how accurate information you provide to the people, they will actually reject that. So issues to do with how people accept it, I think should have actually a systematic approach by different stakeholders. Otherwise, it will be a problem. So I think that's what I wanted just to comment.
Okay. Dr. Okay, sure. Conrad, yes, you can react.
Yeah. So just to add on what he has said, he has spoken what I wanted to say, but the regulation in terms of research is in the hands of the Science and Technology Act.
Mm-hmm.
So currently we have, because he's talking about the product.
Yes.
If you're importing a product, which is either a medical device or medicines, those ones have to be approved by the Poisons and Medical, pharmacies and, yes. Mm-hmm. But then if you're undertaking a clinical clinical trial, for example, where you are introducing a new technology, where you have got aspects of research, then you need clearance. So that clearance is provided by the national committees on health research. So we have a number of them. One of them is the National Health Research Committee, which is a committee of the National Commission, but domiciled in the Ministry of Health. We also have the COMREC, which is actually nowadays no longer called COMREC. It's called KUHESREC.
Okay.
Then the National Commission has the one that is domiciled in the National Commission. Is the Committee on Social Sciences and Humanities. But that one doesn't treat, it usually focuses on social sciences. But everything that is related to health is now approved by the National Health Research Committee. Thank you.
All right. Before we go to the audience, Dr. Malez, you want to?
I was going to add, I appreciate the suggestion on innovation that's looking at simple and possible things that can happen in Malawi. I appreciate the comment by Ms. Ntali Manja there. I think it's important to look at what's feasible in our context, and also looking at not just technology, but the innovations that we can do with the available resources that we have. As Dr. Nkwapata says, he said that there is quite a lot of investment that's required. It will take a lot of money, and we understand that sometimes the allocation and the prioritization of some of those investments might not happen immediately, but there is quite a number of innovations that are happening in country. As I mentioned, there's some community-led initiatives that are happening using innovation can even be bringing the health worker to the community as well. Recently, we had like the graduation of health, what are they, HSAs, which are now called the district community, the disease control surveillance assistants. They're now going to be coming to the community. They've been trained for 1 whole year. For us, that's an innovation, and it's not necessarily technology related, but even those HSAs will be using like the ability to generate data. They'll be coming to the villages. They'll be able to track the hygiene, sanitation and hygiene in those facilities. They're able to also do some diagnostics in those in rural areas, using tablets that are being given to health workers, community health workers as well. So those are some of the aspects that we wanted to also highlight in the health sector as well. And I was going to add a small anecdote that if we're trying to do this integration, it's important that to try and have the language that is similar. From the health side, when we say STI, we say sexually transmitted infections. So when I was hearing the speaker speak about STIs, I was just like trying to understand what the sexually transmitted infections are happening. What's the common factor? I had to like remind myself that we're doing technology, science, technology and innovations. I think that will be helpful for us to have that kind of common language, that we can speak the same language across when we're talking technology, we're talking health. I think that's what Prof. Mulla is saying. We're seeing different things when we're hearing the words being said. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me take the last round of questions from the audience, and then we can start wrapping up. Yeah.
Just a quick reaction, Clarence. I think just to avoid that kind of terminology misunderstanding, we have added R at the beginning, so we are calling it RSTI. So that should be different from STIs.
And the R stands for?
Research.
Okay.
Research, science, technology, and innovation.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, thank you. My name is Hajra Shiguya. From the discussions that we have had, I haven't heard anybody talking about mental health. I just want to know if there are any technologies that a person dealing with mental health can use, or a person maybe having stress or anxiety can use to treat themselves. Thank you.
Okay, there are some hotlines that people can use while at home, but I think access, or I think the balance between having technology and people knowing that it's there, the information, people having information of what to do, the information of where to get help is what's lacking. So the technology may be there, but the balance. So there are hotlines, for example, for some mental health clinics. There are some hotlines that people can actually call and be helped while at home.
And even to add to that, apart from like specific mental health like hotlines, there's also Chipata Chapafoni. It's an innovation that you can call in, and it's being promoted by the Ministry of Health, and that was utilized for any disease condition. You can call in and speak to a health provider in Chichewa or whatever language you need to speak to as well. Those are some of the aspects that are important to be aware of as well. I think not many people are aware of those being available, as she's highlighted, that the knowledge, medical information, I think people are not aware of what is available in country as well. Thanks.
Yeah, that also reminds me, I think we are very interested in health. We've forgotten the other parts, like literacy and education. Because for people to know these things, they have to have the information, they have to be educated. Like for most of these people that will be able to access technology, people that are educated, to be frank, in Malawi, for example. So what about the people in remote areas? How can we improve education and literacy levels with technology? Maybe we can also discuss that.
Any thoughts? There is a serious gap. We're talking about technology and how it can impact the health sector. But we're also saying how exactly are people expected to use, how are people expected to embrace this technology and use it for health if there is a lack of basic literacy? So how do you fill that gap? That's the question you're asking. Okay.
Yes.
So really there is no need to reinvent the wheel. What we want is to take information to the people to influence behavior change. Lifebuoy has done that already. Colgate has done that already. What I'm saying is marketers have fixed that piece for us already. We just have to borrow a leaf from marketers and see how we can do community engagements to ensure that we achieve that behavioral change. In financial literacy, for instance, in financial inclusion, Reserve Bank of Malawi worked with all the financial service providers, even though they are competing, come on one platform, let's go village after village, do activations, tell people about keeping money in the bank, what's a bank account, what's insurance, and all that kind of stuff. So the same things in health. Health practitioners may not be the right people to have the necessary skills to take this information to the community. We need to involve people who are trained in community engagements, in doing whatever, stomping and whatnot. All these marketing companies that do experiential and all that, they will put Lipton tea as you come out of ShopRite and you taste. It works. It works. So there's really no need to reinvent the wheel. It's just to know, as health practitioners, this is where our work stops. From here to this place, let's engage these people to take this work forward, and then we measure the impact of that. And then you have peer influencers in villages, in communities, people that get to understand innovations better, you know, the law of diffusion of innovation. They will be the key influencers and the early adopters. Leave a leaf with them so that the community can go back to them after you have done your intervention and you've left.
Well, thank you very much.
Actually, I feel like he was leading to speak a little bit more about my work. As mothers, I work with mothers to mothers, and our work is actually utilizing the peer meta model. We actually hire and train women who are living with HIV to work in their communities and facilities to also highlight and influence their communities to do HIV testing and also to access other services. And obviously you have the doctor in charge of all of them, but then that's my role is essentially just to guide them on the right information. I think that's what the role of the medical practitioner in those organizations is to share the information, to make sure they have access to the correct information, and make sure that they're disseminating the correct information to the rest of the communities as well. Yeah, so those are some of the other aspects I wanted to highlight.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Malay.
Sorry, I just wanted to say I don't disagree with how best we can give information for behavior change, but let's not forget the transformative aspect of education. A lot of us are here because of education. It lifted us from our villages to where we are, and we need to have that transformative effect, because education is the greatest leveler, it's the greatest equalizer. If we don't emphasize high quality education for our children and all that, yes, they may have knowledge about education, they may have phones, etc., but we still have those inequalities because it's the ability to adapt to changing situations, the ability to think beyond the, what you've been taught, trained. How do you adapt in a new situation? How do you embrace technology? And education is so important for that. So we need to make sure that we don't leave it behind and just focus on health literacy or indeed information giving.
All right, thank you very much. Let us conclude with 1 and 2, and then we can close.
My name is Bahad Piri. I'm a partner at a startup named Link Systems. So we do software development. So as we're talking, when he mentioned genetics, I remembered something that's off topic to technology, but it was about who we are. Remember, we're nomads, right? So we used to always move around. But now we stopped, we're just in cities, and we're trying to play catch up. So it's the same thing in the technology aspect. We're still trying to play catch up. And as an innovator, we've developed so many innovations. But honestly, what I can say is we're missing some data. How about we stop trying to research different data? Okay, so now we're talking about health, right? In the health sector, the research that's specific to Malawi or maybe specific to the SADC region, because we have so many similarities. Such as climate and weather, the different diseases that we have may be different. So I just wanted to put that out there, that as an innovator, what we're missing is data. We want more research, and we want to actually come up with innovations that we'll use in Malawi. So many people are coming up with innovations. In universities, we've worked with so many people, but I'm telling you that those innovations are not being used. They can be publicized, and some of them are being told, oh, I've innovated this, I've innovated this. But honestly, those innovations are not being used because of the data and the information that's there. So I just want to say, I've seen so many key people here, and so many people have made so many comments, but can we also invest a lot in health, technological health innovations, I don't know what they can call it, and publish that data so that innovators like us can actually innovate products using data that's specific to Malawi. So that's all.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to comment on that question, but let's take the final comment from the audience there at the back.
Mine is a question. Is it okay?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. During the brief presentation by Ms. Alinafi Kalombo, she mentioned about the flying of drones. So I was very interested, and I'm interested again. I want to take the audience back to security perspective of artificial intelligence. I was very interested, as I've already said, that the use of drones was used to assess the impacts of Cyclone Fred victims. So I'm Richard Banda, working with Malawi prisons. I'm so interested to say the use of drones can work in the MPS or Malawi Prison Service. But my fear comes on the privacy of female inmates, because we do have those female offenders that needs total human dignity. So this audience and the panelists can help us to get a solution to say how can we balance the innovation of a certain technology and the issue of human rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't know if you want to react to that, and then I will. Okay. Let me ask Anafe, and then I will. Then you, Konda.
Thank you. So as we're working in humanitarian, obviously the issue of dignity is a high priority. And even during Tropical Cyclone Freddy, we still have to follow the principles of accountability to affected population. So we have mechanisms that we actually used to make sure that the data was secure and also restricted access to the various imagery that was taken. It would be an interesting conversation to have with the prisons, Malawi prisons. I would want us to take it separately because there's an ICT working group that has been formed in Malawi, and it's got representations from various sectors. So I think Malawi prisons, it would be good for you to be part of that, so we can take it separately in terms of how you can be part of the group and how we can also assist as well.
Okay. Kondwani, you want to add to that?
Yes, I wanted to respond to Bahati
Yes.
Piri from
Yes.
Link System. So I think her interest is in the fact that there are lots of technologies. Some of them, they haven't seen their light of the day at the end of the day. So there was a survey that was done by the WHO in collaboration with the OPC and NCST through a program which they call Demand Catalyst Program. The idea was to look at, basically it was, the survey was concluded in October. So the idea was to look at some of those innovations, even from the grassroots, even smaller enterprises that have developed innovations, but then they require what you call scaling up. Yeah, so if you are not reached, Bahati, feel free to reach me. Then we can have a conversation because there will be another survey by the National Commission for Science and Technology and NSO. This one is a national business survey on innovations. So likely it will take off in January next year because we can't start collecting data in December. The reason for having these surveys is to ensure that we do the landscape on innovations, and then we look at the demand catalyst. What are these? What can we scale up, or what can we replicate so that we create an impact in Malawi? Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very pertinent topic, health and wealth, innovation and technology for inclusive growth. There are very good and insightful comments and ideas that have come out of this conversation. But I wanted to say, we lead, the people that sit in these forums, we have the capacity to lead the conversation going forward. I think Malawi SET and the National Defense College have done their part. But what I would like to leave you with is that when it comes to integrating technology in various areas, one of the biggest challenges is simply uptake. And deploying the technology is not enough. We must drive uptake of that innovation so that it can really change our lives throughout Malawi. I would like to once again thank you, Dr. Kingdom Kwapata, Professor Adam Mola, Mrs. Elinafe Kalombo Mitiani, Mr. Kondwani Gondwe, thank you very much. And again, for helping us facilitate this final session, Dr. Bridget Solomba Malewezi and Captain Dr. Emma Silema, also last but not least, Dr. Engineer Edwin Kundi. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been a very supportive and contributory audience. I thank you for your time. Can we please give a hand to our panelists and supporters? Thank you very much.
Clarence Gama. A round of applause for such a beautiful moderation of this particular session. And indeed, you are not leaving that podium because I would actually want to invite the three to join them up there for a beautiful photograph and some token of appreciation for a good job, well executed. And I know that colleagues were itching for coffee. Don't worry, there is coffee. But what it has done, what you have done, is that you have finished the business for the day. So coffee will be for another session, chatting and going out back home. So that 8 a.m. tomorrow, we begin the session here. And hopefully, we could finish much earlier than anticipated for the day, Friday. You know, Fridays, you don't need to be in here until 4 p.m. Beautiful. At least we've got 3 ladies now. A round of applause. Yes, and a token of appreciation for a good job. Thank you so very much, Brigadier General, for doing the needful. And thank you so much, each one of you, our panelists, and of course, the three colleagues who assisted with that final session. You know what, if I were you, tomorrow I would come here a little earlier, because apparently we're going to look at the blind spot, use, misuse, and abuse of artificial intelligence. Sounds beautiful for a start of the day tomorrow. But then the program suggests that tomorrow we must finish at 5 p.m. So I'm sure that if we come earlier, we should be able to finish much earlier than 5 p.m. on a Friday, month end. I would want to again thank the Malawi set for hosting us here, and of course the National College for co-hosting this symposium. A beautiful start, as the moderator did mention earlier on here. Whatever we're doing here, it is up to us to ensuring that we can bring it to the world where we want everything else to work for the better. Thank you so much for being a wonderful audience today. See you tomorrow.